right, so this footage is a little bit older. It's a couple months old by now, but I'm finally now getting around to doing something with the footage. This is a sycamore tree. This is the second largest sycamore in the city of Atlanta. Got hit by lightning in the 70s, but up until about maybe late last year, it was doing fine. And then a storm rolled through and knocked the whole top half down. So I'm over at my buddy Richard's now, and he was kind enough to let me mill up a couple of larger logs that had fallen. Now, I had never worked with sycamore before. I'd heard a lot about it, heard that it's a very tough tree, and it absolutely lived up to its reputation. It wasn't that difficult to mill, to cut through, but I tried to split some wedges to position the log, to stick them under and keep it in place. And no matter what I did, I tried 2 or 3 different pieces. I was using a full-size axe. I think I was using my forcible entry axe from Council Tool, which I think it's like 6.5 pounds. It's a hefty axe. I could not get these to split at all. So it absolutely lived up to its reputation. But as far as milling, it wasn't terribly difficult to mill. It behaved a lot like elm. Elm has interlocking grain, just like sycamore does. And they say you're supposed to quarter saw sycamore. I believe that's for beauty, but it's also for stability. Even air drying it now, there's a couple problem spots where actually the grain, if I have a flap of the growth ring, it's actually kind of separated from the main log, which I hadn't seen that before, which is really interesting. So I'm hoping that I can get this kiln dried and make something neat with it. But
sycamore, I mean, how many board feet are in that tree?
How much isn't rotted?
Well, I would bet that the trunk 30 feet up is fine.
Really? Oh
yeah.
My God.
Look at that.
I can't imagine what you're going to do with a piece that thick.
Well,
oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. This one doesn't look rotted at all.
No, that one looks great.
My God.
Yeah,
this is a semi-finished board.
Really nice wood. This looks a lot like elm.
that interlocking grain is sure interesting. It's very, very beautiful. If they call sycamore American lacewood. It's very, very pretty. I just hope I can get a couple of sections dried and in decent condition enough to make some furniture. But this was a very special tree to mill. It's an enormous sycamore tree. I can see how these trees have established themselves in American culture and history the way that they have. But enough jibber jabbering. I cut 4-inch slabs to give myself as much room for error in the drying process as possible. I might resaw them afterwards, but then again, I might not. These could make some really cool mantles or other pieces. But yeah, so here's some milling sycamore.
Gave me trouble.
All right, so the sycamore log was interesting for a number of reasons. It carried tension in very strange ways. I already mentioned once in the beginning of the video that when I was bucking the log, it compressed on the bar. It shouldn't have done that because it was actually slightly overhanging a little depression. When this tree fell, it created these depressions, kind of craters all over the yard, and this log was slightly hanging over a depression. So that was one of the reasons why I tried to split some logs to wedge it. But I ended up needing a wedge actually just to get through the cut because the log was compressing on my bar. It was pinching it. But then I think maybe it was my second or third cut. I'd never had this happen before this way, this severe. As I was cutting, the log was bananaing. It was just really the flap was coming up, and so what that was doing is it was tilting my chainsaw mill so that I was digging into the log instead of running along the log, and that made it very difficult. I felt that, and I started to really put pressure in my elbows to keep the log flat so my mill would be flat. That took a long time. That was a very stressful cut, and you'll see in the video, it was wild. I hadn't seen this footage in a long time, but as I get through the end of the cut to the end of the log, the tree, it just forms a banana like this. It just goes like this, you know, all that tension in the log was released, and I'd say that piece is probably decently warped right now. I'm gonna need a lot of weight, probably bands actually, to really compress that log flat enough. So maybe that one will end up being my leg pieces, so I can cut it and then mill it into shorter sections that I can then square up.
I think honestly that was way better than I expected it to be. I was thinking that the float was really gonna fight me, but I just pressed as much body weight down on it flattened it out. This is like maple here. That's very like maple.
Yeah,
maple has
right.
the same
You're right.
grain. Ah, it's one of those ants. I kill one of those whenever I get the chance. I owe them about 100 bites. You know, I've never bit an ant. You know, it's like, what do they have against me? You know, it's like, what did I do to you?
Right.
You'd think I was just doing it for fun. That, I think, is my favorite.
Oh wow.
That one on the bottom there. Wow, look at that.
It's very LSD-ish.
Isn't it? It's like a Rorschach test.
What do you call them?